And then she's got this jug of milk with her tooth in it, and she finds her girlfriend at home with the gas on. And they're, by the by, they're really bad at killing people. For the Russian mob, super bad at offing people. It's kind of weird.
Welcome to another episode of the Caffeinated Librarians. I'm Simona.
I'm Amy.
And today, Amy and I will be discussing the 2020 Netflix dark comedy thriller, I Care a Lot, written and directed by Jay Blakeson. The film is about a woman who exploits elderly people for financial gain and eventually finds herself mixed up with gangsters. So right off the bat, I had a very hard time with this movie, not only because of the subject matter, basically abuse of elderly people, abuse of the elder care system, the negligence around the board of the judge involved and everyone else. But I kind of felt at a certain point that we were meant to feel sympathy for what eventually happens to Marla, who is the central character in the film, the one who has this business, so to speak, of exploiting elderly people. And I don't like that kind of manipulation because, I mean, honestly, there are very few good characters in this show. Even the woman played by Diane Weist, whom they sort of force into elder care, Jennifer Peterson, is not exactly saintly either. But yeah, that kind of manipulation toward the end where it's almost like you want me to feel any kind of sympathy for this woman who is devoid of all sympathy and morals. I don't really like when that happens.
I don't think that was where they were going. Honestly, like I didn't feel like it was like just to like, I don't know what part, like at the end or the middle of sort of the end, like where are you talking? Okay, so when she gets shot. Okay.
Yeah, and it's also based on because the director said he had an alternative ending in mind, and I believe in that ending Marla would have ridden off into the sunset and continue doing what she was doing. But he said he didn't want to go with that ending, and that to a certain degree, he was sort of playing with the idea of, do you sympathize with this character at this moment? Are you rejoicing in the fact that she's died? So he was trying to, I think, elicit mixed emotions from people viewing and reading Twitter comments. Most people, I think, were of the mind that she deserved what happened to her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was no attempt to elicit sympathy from the viewer. It was interesting. I hated the beginning of this movie. I had to watch, like, I would say at least the first half on 10 seconds fast forward and just read the subtitles because it was just so painful. And then like when what's his name? Peter Dinklage, when his character gets into it, I started like being able to enjoy myself more because it was less about the grift and more about like the personal struggle that she's going through. Excuse me. And and everybody's a jerk, like you said. There are a lot of movies like that, and I honestly do try to avoid them because it is hard. Like at the end, you're not like, yay. And like nobody's happy, yay. But I thought that this one kind of did it as well as it could, that everyone, and I did like that it explored the fact that even terrible people have mommies. And and she says at one point, like awful people get old. Like, so it's not like once you become old you're sweet and gentle and loving. So it was nice to explore those issues a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that Rosamund Pike was the main character, Marla, and she is just spectacular. I spent so much of her scenes just looking at her face and going like just the expressions, the smiles, and her teeth were perfect, which I need to talk about her teeth. But just she acted it so well. Um, but where was I going with this? I was going somewhere, I promise. Uh, oh, but in the beginning when there's a man who she's like grifted
Mm-hmm.
his mother into a nursing home, and he hasn't gotten to see her, and she's sick, and he wants to see her, and it's heartbreaking. It's totally like it was awful. It's awful to hear
Mm-hmm.
that. And just how ruthlessly and kind of effortlessly she's taken this system and made this network of other awful people. But she goes up to him and she says, like, do you think that you're automatically scarier than me because I don't have a penis or
Mm-hmm.
something like that? And like, first of all, like, she's just amazing. um but that speech was so great. And I hated it that it came from like a straight up awful person, but whatever. uh and then it turns out that she's gay, which in the like I saw Frankie kind of Fran kind of hanging around with her, and I kind of was getting the there are a couple vibe. But it did annoy me that they made this tough, ruthless, awful character um be gay, because like, because cis women, like, would that be too harsh? Would that be too harsh that like a man could be possibility, like scarier than a dude? Like, I don't know why they chose that, and really like pulled out that stereotype of lesbians being like rough and tough. And even though she's like not dressed, like in the more masculine way that that the stereotype would suggest, that she's tough as nails and in a way that cis women can't be.
Uh, I didn't see it that way. It's interesting. There were a lot of Twitter comments that were actually pleased for the queer representation and also the fact that she's a queer woman who is very badass. Like they actually liked it. I didn't really, I saw her queerness as incidental to her overall kind of character. It's just almost like what's the
Character development.
no, more like she's this, manipulative, power hungry woman who happens to be gay. I didn't
Hmm. Hmm.
the narrative around her gay, like
Right.
being queer. One thing that kind of bothered me, and other people said this too, so I'm not alone in this, is this sort of pseudo feminism thing that they got going. Like, I mean, yes, the way she sort of is able to rip into the man who basically like walks up to her and says, like, I hope you die. And before you
Hmm.
hope you get raped. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was taking advantage of her gender as a
yeah,
weapon.
yeah.
Yeah.
So she basically tears him down, rips him a new one, and then and she just, you know, goes off. But I kind of like, I think one of the things that bothered me, and I don't know whether this was the intent of the film or just how I was interpreting it, was like basically she has this whole introduction. The film opens up with her basically talking about how,
Hmm.
oh, if you've ever heard that, you can make it and you can be anyone, well, that is simply written by people that have money and power. And the truth of the matter is that you're either a lion or you're a wolf. You're either the victim or the perpetrator.
Mhm.
I choose to be the lion. And it's almost as if, don't justify your behavior because you feel life owes you something, or you feel, "Oh, this is the nature of the world." Yes, there is a lot of corruption, but you don't earn any points by being the way you are because you believe this is what I have to do. No, you don't.
Right, right.
You're
Well,
choosing to ruin people's lives.
well, she's obviously, and this, I was like, I watched like 5 minutes of something because I couldn't stomach it, but it was a serial killer that went under hypnotic regression, and
Mhm,
he was recounting like terrible sexual abuse performed by his mom,
mhm,
and it said like, are monsters born or are
mhm,
they made? And it's like, no, no, there are plenty of people that suffered awful abuse that did not go around killing people. So, no. And, but again, that outlook, that
mhm,
outlook is a scarred person outlook. Not to
mhm.
say like she had every right to go out and
Yeah.
like just ruin people's lives, but like I can definitely understand, you know, I can, from those speeches, I get that she was raised like probably in poverty.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some indications, because I think she was saying how she had a sort of 9 to 5 job or something like that, but it wasn't cutting it for her.
Mhm.
And she obviously has a desire for wealth,
Right.
and that's
Well,
pretty
she,
obviously,
yeah. Well, she
it's
says at one point, I'm sorry.
no, no, no. It's
Okay. She says at one point, I want to be rich. I want to have
mhm,
enough money that I can use it as a weapon.
mhm,
And,
mhm,
so it's not just the money and the security, it's the amount of pull that she gets. It's the amount
mhm,
of power that she never had pretty
mhm.
clearly, or that she's just, but I tend to go with like, childhood scarring, but, with the caveat that you really don't have to turn into a sociopath or a psychopath. But, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I found I found her character really interesting,
Mhm,
and like an exploration of that interestingness was like somebody just tried to kill her, like they like in a really awful way, like we'll prop your leg down on the gas pedal with a bottle of whiskey, we will, or whatever, they poured it down her nose, like they put a
mhm,
tube down so she would have all this alcohol in her stomach. And so like then she like is unconscious because they punched her, or no, they drugged her. And so
yeah.
she's unconscious. And then, there's got to be some of that alcohol getting processed. So she's like, she wakes up going into the water, figures out how to get her seatbelt off because they jammed it, figures out how to get out, like swims to shore, and her tooth comes out, and she is like, and then she screams, and then
Mm,
like the next scene she's in a gas station, and like just walks in, grabs a jug of milk, opens it up, drops the tooth in there. The amount of importance that she's placing on her appearance being flawless, even after like, okay, somebody just tried to kill me, and then she's
mhm,
got this jug of milk with her tooth in it, and she finds her girlfriend at home with the gas on.
mhm.
And they're, by the by, they're really bad at killing people. For the Russian mob, super bad at offing people. It's kind of weird. So you know and then like, and then she gets them safe, and then she goes, you know she like goes to the dentist pre-dawn while her girlfriend is still asleep. Like, that's a lot of commitment.
Yeah, and I think it all goes to show with how in society the outward appearance of goodness often matters more than internal goodness.
Right.
So she's very much, because it's a fact of life, obviously not for everyone, but appearances make a big difference on how you perceive other people. If she walks in there with teeth missing, her hair, whatever, even if she's extremely skilled and good at what she does, she will not be taken
Right.
seriously. So she has to have this immaculate appearance, the straight haircut, the no business kind of attitude. She wears blazers for the most
Right.
part.
And everything's like monochrome. Yeah.
Exactly. So she's definitely cultivated her appearance and has made it an art form. That goes without saying.
Yeah, but I mean, if somebody was trying to kill me, and like less me and honestly more the girlfriend, because you could tell that was more upsetting to her. Like
I
when
kind of felt like she didn't really like Fran. I was trying to understand sort of how Fran got sort of, I don't want to say pulled along, because maybe she had enough agency to decide this is what I want to do. But I kind of hated how Marla completely disregards Fran's fears, because Fran has just been beaten up. The home has been ransacked. They turned on the gas to kill her. She's obviously just found out that they've just tried to kill the woman that she loves, and she's desperate to get out. And the woman's like, you can either give me the number or so it's almost like I think Marla cared too much about achieving the goal of money. I'm not saying she didn't care about Fran, because I believe she did, but I think one thing took priority over the other. But I think that's also what, because I was thinking the same thing, like Roman and his gang are completely inept. That goes without saying. The whole debacle when they try to break Jennifer out, like, and can I just give a shout out to Diane Wise, because she is awesome in that role. Like, I love the moment when she's using the restroom. The guys are like, madam, and I'm like, knock on a door or something. And she goes, it's about damn time. And I was like, they're not going to get her out. And it's like, so like just the inept, aspect of Roman and his gang. But I also think that's one of the reasons why Roman, in another really well acted scene, this is of course, obviously after she's managed to, and I admit I skipped a lot, after she managed to incapacitate Roman, and she basically says, you're in my hands now. Like, and she says, and I
loved that. That made me happy.
I control your happiness now. And they're sitting down, and she's basically saying, okay, here's how it can go. You can either be miserable or just pay me the $10 million I asked for. And he goes, I have a better idea. And he realizes that this woman is extremely intelligent, extremely manipulative, extremely resourceful. And basically she can go to any lengths to get what she wants. So he says, let me utilize this. And I love how he proposes this epic partnership, how he has it all like, we're going to have multiple branches within the US and overseas. We're going to have control of pharmaceuticals. And I was like, my God, this man has it really thought out. And
he's a big picture guy.
Think about it. And like, you see that Marla is like, huh. And then of course it explodes from there, and they do create enormous empire. So like and I think that was also an aspect why Marla could be in the face of a mob boss and not outwardly panic, but there are moments when Rosamund Pike uses her eyes to really convey like what are they doing? But I also think with her is that she cannot convey any weakness, because the minute she does that, you already have the upper hand over me. An element where she's probably not playing with the full deck, because around.
Right. Well, you remember at one point they show her that they have a live stream on her mom, and she's like, go ahead and kill her. So you can tell that was a cultivated thing for survival, probably. Like, I can't, like, if I show this lady I'm afraid of her, like things aren't going to go well for me, so I just need to dig in. So I mean, but her, like, I did feel like, when she was with Fran, it was the most honest exploration of that side of her, like the caring part of her. And like, and Fran said she was scared but
Mm-hmm.
Marla never did. Marla said, like, I'm so sorry. And I
Mm-hmm.
read something saying, that at the end, the plot gets weaker because they're, because you're seeing Marla's feelings. And I don't think that that was the case. Like, I don't think that I felt like she was getting gushy on us. She saw her love was almost killed, and she was very sensitive to her, and and that bears out. Most people aren't 100% horrible.
No, and I think that was fairly realistic how she has her core group of people. So it was
Right.
Dr. Karen, who I'm sorry there were no tears shed over that death.
No,
So she has Dr. Karen, she has Fran. I'm assuming the head of the nursing home. I really don't know what her relationship with him is exactly.
I think she thinks he's a jerk.
Yeah, so I mean, so she has like her core group. She definitely has people that she cares about, and she
Mhm.
tells Roman, you can do, whatever you want. Which I don't think she says to me. I forgot what she says, just but the minute you touch someone I care about, you've crossed a line.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it shows that, like you said, most human beings are emotionally complex. Even if if you're an amoral person to an extent, there will be something or someone that you care about.
Right. In your own damaged way, even perhaps.
Yes, yeah. But I didn't see the moments of vulnerability that she shows with Fran as being a weakness.
Yeah.
I didn't see it that way. I think it just added another layer to her character. And I think it also confirmed that this is not just my partner in crime, so to speak. She's more than that for me.
Right.
Um, but I think Fran, I mean, she ends up still being with her even when Marla has cultivated this empire. But I often wonder if Roman had not made that bargain, if he somehow managed to get out, if Fran would have been the one to say, okay, now we got to call it a quits.
Mhm.
Would she still have been willing to continue doing what she was doing? I don't really know.
Right. Well, she did say, like, we can leave. We can go right now.
Mhm,
That's fine, or we
mhm.
can keep going. And
Yeah.
I think she did love Fran enough.
Mhm,
I just, again, like, you don't know really how, where her psychological damage is, like,
mhm,
so, Fran didn't do anything bad to her. Fran was nice to her. Fran took care of her. So
mhm,
she's taking care of Fran. But,
mhm,
does that, like, so if Fran said call it off and she said fine, would eventually that turn into a resentment?
mm,
Like, because
mm,
if she, like, again, I really love psychology.
mhm,
So, so a narcissistic personality type, um, they would probably love someone, and again, they love, but it's not maybe as deeply as another person could love, and it's
mhm,
not the same. It's as close as they can come to love with
mhm,
whatever damage they have, but it's not necessarily, as, what's it called, unconditional.
mhm.
And so, maybe she would have left, and then she'd be like, this lady is holding me down. She's always held me down. And this is one of the
Yeah, because considering how ambitious Marla is,
Mhm.
if Fran, like as you said before, had managed to say, we really need to call it a quit, I eventually think Marla would have left Fran and just found another partner, not necessarily a romantic
Mhm.
partner, but
Right, right,
another partner with the same level of ambition,
right.
to speak.
Well, Fran brought her own set of skills to the relationship. Like, she
Yeah.
was she was a former police officer, and she did the records searches,
Mm-hmm.
and she
Yeah.
could find out car license plates and all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think, again, like, we don't know exactly how deep that feeling is and how much it's all tied together, because
Mm-hmm.
even regular human beings, like, like that, like, you know, and I'm just thinking, you know, in terms of like a cis marriage, because I'm cis, but you know, they're like in the 50s, everyone stayed together for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, somebody had something to offer other than the traditional thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wanted to talk about when Marla, well, actually, Fran is the one who uncovers it, that Jennifer Peterson is not Jennifer Peterson, that Roman's mother assumed the identity of this infant that passed away many
Mm-hmm.
years ago from an illness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe you ever learn what Jennifer's actual name is or
Yeah.
what her background is. But Jennifer is another character where even though she is vulnerable in the sense where she has lost her freedom, she's lost access to her phone, she's lost control of her own autonomy over her own body, she's being highly medicated, she's being food deprived, she's not allowed to see anyone. She still is also extremely strong and extremely resourceful. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the few people that Marla really can intimidate. And I
Right.
would argue that Marla is somewhat intimidated by Jennifer because Jennifer is not allowing her that upper hand. Like I like
Mm-hmm.
as you're going to pay and you're going to regret what you've done. And
Right.
Marla says, I own you. I can make your life miserable. And Jennifer says, do your worst.
Mm-hmm.
So that is there, that back and forth,
Right.
that's really interesting to see.
Yeah, it was cool to see like how far, you know, she would not back down, because like there are plenty, I imagine, of small time people that are running this kind of scam or some kind of scam, that when
Mhm.
they realize that, oh, I seem to have landed a shark here, you
Yeah.
know, like cut bait
Yeah.
and just take the money and go and pretend this never happened and move on with your life.
Mhm.
And you know, and it worked out for her, but those are gambles that I don't think many like sane criminals would take. Like that's
No,
a big gamble.
yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, ineptness of the whole Russian mafia gang aside, I even liked the moment when Alexei and the two other guys are touring
Mm-hmm.
nursing home, and I like how he goes, and Alexei goes, "Well, that's great. Now, can we see someone?" And I like,
Mm-hmm.
well, who do you want to see? He goes, Jennifer Peterson, and it's almost like the name is like a bomb that has gone off. He goes, "Oh,
Yep.
let me check on," and just
Right.
chaos descends from there. And I like how I love the scene where like the old man with his tank is coming out of his room and the officer goes like, "Get out of the way!" And he basically like almost like throws himself back into his room and there's like shooting going back and forth.
Right.
And I also like how Marla says, "You brought a gun to a nursing home." And
Mm-hmm.
I'm, wow, okay, you apparently care about the people you're exploiting a little bit. But the whole scene was just hysterical. Oh my God.
Right.
These are the most inept people I've ever seen.
I know.
Yeah,
That's what kills me, that he was supposed to be so hardcore and
yeah,
everyone he works with is so stupid, except for that lawyer who was awesome. I loved his lawyer.
yeah.
Um,
His lawyer was pretty good. Yeah, slimy, but
oh man, that was a great scene between, and like he tries to buy Marla off at the very
mhm.
beginning, and you know, and he's saying, well, you'd be comfortable, and if this continues, you'd not be in a position to be comfortable or uncomfortable any longer. And she asks if that's a threat, and he's like, no, but people die. Like it was so good. I was so happy with that scene and the acting that went on. And like her
Yeah,
vape pen. What is in the pen? What is in the pen?
I thought that was.
What is she vaping, by the way?
I have no idea, but I like how she doesn't have a normal cigarette. She has to have
Mhm.
a fancy vape pen.
Yeah.
I think is
That's a
another layer.
hardcore machine right there.
Yeah, and I think it's just another layer to her whole persona, like almost like I wouldn't be caught dead smoking a regular cigarette like normal people.
Right.
But yeah, I do love how the lawyer says, you can, like I admire the game that you're doing here, like just not with Jennifer. So
Right. Right.
so he's like, you can keep on doing what you're doing. I love it, but Jennifer is off limits.
Yeah.
I
Well,
did like
they're just
back and
all
forth
so
between,
smarmy.
yeah,
It's
even
so
the way
good.
he
And
was
you feel so
dressed.
bad for for the judge.
The judge was, I'm so, the judge was so stupid.
Yes.
It's almost like when you're, what's the, like, you know, a series of unfortunate events?
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever
Mm-hmm.
seen the movie where they have their I guess he's the executor of their parents' estate. He goes, you know, like how can this be Count Olaf? He's a very respectable blah 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 blah. And it's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
can't you see? He goes, and it's almost like basically in spite of the obvious, you still don't see it.
Right.
So it's like the woman, like never mind the man, yes, he's smarm times like 10. But I'm like, but you really trust Marla? And he goes, I know Marla. I
Right.
know you. Who are you? You know, he's
Yeah. I mean, I felt bad for him because if I have to play any one of those characters with my real life personality, I would say I'd have to be the judge. I can't, like, I would not be the scrappy nursing home person. Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't be with somebody that was doing such awful things and assisting. I
Mhm.
would, and I'm totally like, if I think someone's being honest, I could totally see myself being duped by Marla.
Mhm.
Although she would intimidate me. Like, I think I would be nauseous if I had to talk to her.
Yeah, I also loved the scene when the lawyer who's Dean basically comes to court to try to see like Jennifer, and he says, you know, I have a witness who worked for the doctor. Oh, you're talking, I'll just call her Kate. You're talking about Kate. Kate's a moron. And I like how like there's
Mhm.
background, the judge says, I know Kate. She is a moron. So
Right.
how Dean just deflates because he's realized like, oh, like darn, like I've lost my ace, so to speak.
Mhm.
It was just so funny.
Right. And I, oh, go
No,
ahead.
but I also saw that scene almost because Marla uses the thing where, you know, she's a disgruntled employee who was fired because she's incompetent. So
Mhm.
disgruntled, fired, and incompetent, any credibility that this witness may have just flies out the window,
Right.
which
Right.
is true. Because when juries, you could be telling the truth, but if you have
Mhm.
no background, if you don't look as pretty, or you can't dress as smartly, you know,
Mhm.
anything that is deemed incredible, it doesn't matter if you're telling
Right.
the truth. So I thought that as another sort of nod to the fact that oftentimes what matters in the court is, you know, appearance, or,
Right.
you know, well, I can't trust you, so to speak. And
Right.
someone obviously was telling the truth because the doctor
Mhm.
was doing that.
Plus it was family court.
Yeah.
So it's not his job to
Yeah.
see through this kind of machination.
Yeah.
Like, and I guess in some ways it would be like in child abuse cases, but like this is kind of one of those things where like Marla is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even in that, like when they're declaring Jennifer Peterson incompetent,
Mm-hmm.
and he looks over at her and he's like, Marla, I know you're busy, but can
Mm-hmm.
you take her? And like she doesn't go yes, she makes some faces, and
Mm-hmm.
like, and then she's taking that bullet because she knows that she is needed, like, and she was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'll take her.
Yeah.
That's not something that somebody in a snazzy pimp suit can really like bust holes in.
Yeah, because again, I think Dean was relying on the fact that, you know, I'm going to intimidate my way, which he should have realized when he first met her that that wouldn't be the tactic that would really get to her. So I think he was relying on the fact that he was backed up by powerful people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe his gender played a role in it. Maybe the fact that he was a man may have, like, you know, I'm going to wear you down, you know, so to speak.
Right, right.
And it just doesn't work. Obviously, it does not work with her. And also, she is extremely intelligent. Dean, not so much. You know, so I think that also, well, he doesn't
I
really,
don't know. I thought he was good.
I mean,
I
he's
mean, he
good,
went
but
to
I think
smarmy lawyer
she's,
school.
yeah, she's a level above.
Right,
And
right.
she she knows the players and she knows how to manipulate the chess pieces.
Right. She has home field advantage though.
Yeah, true.
Like it doesn't seem like it's the biggest town.
No.
And everybody knows each other, and there's clearly only one family court judge. And
Yes.
like I think he was gonna lose no matter what.
Yeah.
But definitely he did not know his audience going
No,
going
didn't.
into like a family court dressed like that.
Oh, yike. Oh, it's like not pimp like, but it's
Oh no, it was totally pimp
it
suit.
was so over the top. Um, yeah, so yeah, I mean, in spite of what I said, but I definitely just liked the film. I would never rewatch it. And I found out that my mom and my dad actually watched it. So they were like, oh my God, like it stressed us out so much. We were so angry. I was like, just don't say anything, just don't spoil anything. Um, yeah, so it definitely goes to show how the system can work, but the system can also be manipulated, that there is a lot of corruption, and that
Mhm.
corruption is across the board,
Right.
whether it's with elder care, whether it's with adoption agencies, child welfare agencies, those,
Mhm.
that's a reality, that corruption exists and people who can manipulate the system will manipulate it.
Right.
So that part I did sort of appreciate. And I know that the actress Rosamund Pike was saying how this film is bringing attention to something that exists.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people felt that the message was kind of lost. I mean, definitely I appreciate the fact that they made the film.
I had no idea
Oh,
like that this even happened. Like
mm,
on, like I don't know if anybody does this on the level that she did.
mhm.
Um, but I mean, I am so naive that I was like, I hope they're not giving anybody ideas. Like, so but I was appalled. I was just like, what? And
I mean,
the
I wasn't aware of
doctor?
like the racketeering aspect. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think
Right.
that they're just calculating people. They'll find a way to make anything profitable at
Hmm.
the of others. So that doesn't surprise me. Um, but yeah, the abuse of elderly people. Like I remember years ago, there was a case in Italy that shocked a lot of people. The extreme amount of abuse that
Hmm.
was inflicted by caregivers, orderlies. It was
Right.
atrocious. But I think it's also another aspect of it is that, and this is not a commentary on people who put their loved ones in nurse. I
Yeah.
understand
No, I'm
it's a necessity,
right.
but I think sometimes it also highlights the fact that oftentimes people are there and almost forgotten. You know,
Hmm.
so these abuses can also be perpetuated
Right.
because the family may not be as involved. Like there was another case where
Right.
this woman was being abused. Her family would visit often and realized, I think, that something wasn't right. And they managed to basically, I don't know if they put a camera, I forgot what they did, and they were able to eventually uncover the abuse that was occurring. Um, so I felt bad, like especially when there's the image of them focusing on all the portraits of all the old people that she's basically sucking dry.
Hmm.
Whether these people are really good, whether they,
Right. But I
deserve
don't
to
know.
them.
Like it
Yeah.
sounded more like at the end that
Hmm.
it wasn't like he was like, and we're gonna help people, sort of. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that she like I don't know if 100% of her cases were just her taking advantage of people.
Hmm.
Like I mean, I think, like there's no like 50-50 moral like
Hmm.
judgment. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know if like maybe 60% like legit needed to be there,
Hmm.
and 40% were kind of turfed in by that doctor.
Hmm.
um but it doesn't make a difference. But like I think I don't know if Roman really had the stomach to just be like, we're gonna straight up torture old people. Like I think
Yeah.
like he didn't want them not taken care of. he just, he wanted to have all of these linked companies where, and obviously they'd skim as much as they could when they could, but like is that, I think that's any business.
Yeah.
Like I can't see most people seeing like free money just being like, nah, that's not mine. Like, and I mean, obviously, like I'm not talking about individuals, but once you're getting
Yeah.
higher and higher in a company and there's less and less personal connection, it's easier to kind of make those like little pulls happen. And if you have like 500 people and you take a quarter from each of them, that would equal a lot more than if you took, let's say $1 from 50 people. So, they would maybe have to take less in their overall operations. But that being said, still not cool.
No, definitely. Like, no one get any ideas. This isn't the way. No. We're not encouraging you to go into business and exploit old people, but
right. Yeah. I'm, and about the nursing home that, when you were mentioning like that you weren't calling into question the moral character of people that put their, it's a similar problem for parents, like if you put your child in daycare, that's like somehow a moral failing. And it's like, well, I can't quit my job. Yeah.
No, I definitely understand that, because obviously not everyone can afford to watch their children. But I thought you were actually going to go with some daycare abuse that,
Oh yeah. I mean, but
like,
again, those are the most vulnerable people that can't necessarily speak for themselves. Like a baby can cry, but they can't tell you that they were hungry all day, like, so it's kind of a hard situation. And it's the same thing, like if you have an elderly patient or any patient with dementia, you can't necessarily, like if they say they didn't feed me all day, it's like, oh mom, yeah, they did. Like, because who are you going to believe, your parent with dementia or a trained staff of caregivers?
Yeah. And that's something else that the movie highlighted as well, where when Jennifer is making these claims that she's there against her will, Marla says, oh, she's heavily medicated, she's delusional. So again, it's a person within power throwing around these terms, and you automatically have more credibility in the person who may genuinely be exploited and abused. Another frustrating aspect too is that a lot of the times these people lose their voice because they are deemed incompetent. They are deemed, oh, you can't trust what they're saying. Another failing of the system, because if anything is being called into question, then you should have means of basically, okay, if this person is saying, my caregiver slaps me every time she comes into the room, are the cameras in there? Can we verify that? So I think sometimes is that, which, it's probably a never ending cycle of or whatnot, but I think that's the frustrating aspect too, with a lot of these things, where it's like, well, are you trying to even verify this? Who are you even hiring, for these positions? If you're hiring someone who the minute a child vomits, they're going to basically, that's not the person then you want to hire in a daycare. So sometimes it's like those things that slip through the cracks make you mistrust the system even more. But thankfully, there are decent, hardworking people that are in these industries that are reasons, thankfully.
Yes. Disclaimer, Simona and I fully support nursing home and daycare workers.
Exactly.
And we know it's not most people that perpetuate these awful things.
Yes, because I have my older brother works in a care facility for older people. So, and he's very good at his job. So there's definitely people who are meant to be in these professions. So we support you 100%.
Okay, I think we should
Yeah.
get to our final thoughts.
Yes, so final thoughts. The movie is worth watching if you don't get easily frustrated, because I got so frustrated. But it is worth watching if you do like complex characters. And this is something that you really, care about, because I'm sure if you are involved in this profession, or if these sort of issues matter to you, I think you will enjoy the exploration that goes on in this
Right.
film. And it is available on Netflix,
Mhm.
we mentioned earlier, and there's a terrific cast. So I would say if you can stomach it and you won't get bothered, then definitely give it a watch.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say it's a definite watch. I was speaking to a friend about it, and she said, "So it's not a good escape film." And I said, "No, not if you want to escape to somewhere good." So, um, but the
No.
acting is phenomenal. And it's definitely it's definitely worth a watch if you like the acting, and as Simona said, the character explorations.
So yeah, so thank you again for joining us for another episode. We had fun. We look forward to you listening to our next one. And as always, stay safe, stay well, and thank you again, everyone.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.